Growing calls for a second special counsel, this time to investigate potential abuse of the FISA court that may have allowed the government to spy on the Trump team. That's what some allege. A letter to the Attorney General Jeff Sessions pointing to revelations concerning the end of the Clinton email investigation and the beginning of the Trump-Russia probe. Kentucky Senator Rand Paul with me now. And Senator, welcome back here on America's Newsroom. Fair to say you despise the FISA court, right? I mean, you don't like this law at all. What do you think about a second counsel, a special counsel? Would you support that?
I think the FISA court has way too much power, but I also believe that special counsels are often given too much power. Currently, we have a special counsel, and I think it's become a witch hunt on the Russia thing. They're investigating people for things that have nothing to do with collusion of Russia. So I'm worried that special counsels go far afield from their actual task.
So
that being said, I do think there needs to be an investigation, though, and I think the Investigator General has done a pretty good job so far. I believe the Investigator General that's currently looking at this is the one who found Peter Strzok and Lisa Page's text messages between themselves. So I think we ought to let it shake out and see what he can come up with.
So you're holding your fire. You're not ruling it out on a second special counsel.
Yeah, I think my leaning is towards letting the Investigator General do it. And my conclusion from the facts that I've seen so far is I can't imagine Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, or Bruce Orr should remain in government employment. And I asked the FBI director last week, are they still able to search the database? Because my complaint all along is that no FBI agent should search any database without a warrant on Americans. And the thing is I think these people who are horribly tainted and biased against the president still have the ability to type in Americans' names and search for our information, which I think is absolutely wrong. And I think there should be a requirement that you get a warrant from a judge before any searches are done on Americans.
Just to be clear, that you think the Inspector General can inspect and investigate his own department?
Well, the thing is, the interesting thing is the Inspector Generals are really separate. They report unto themselves. They don't really report to anybody within the department, ultimately report to the top of government. But the Investigator Generals do a pretty good job in government at rooting out not only waste, but malfeasance and fraud. And this particular Investigator General Horowitz is the one who found the text messages between
You're right about
Strzok
that. We're going
to
remember that as we go through. But I think 99% of the cases that have gone to the FISA court have been approved, right? Going back to 1978. What's the 1% of cases that were not approved?
That's another issue, and that's why I still am for FISA reform. And I'm disappointed that a lot of this debate began after we finished the debate in Congress on reform. So yes, I think that nobody in law enforcement should be looking at Americans' information without first getting a warrant. That's what I fought for, and we were very close to winning that battle and getting the bill and getting reform for FISA, but we didn't quite get there. And then the Nunes memo came out the day after we finished talking about reform. But I've talked to the president about this, and I think we should bring back up FISA reform, and we should institute a warrant requirement so people like Strzok and Page, who are horribly biased against the president, so they can't be snooping on and looking through information without the permission of a court.
I have two more topics quickly on the tariffs issue now. It's starting to divide the Republican Party. Paul Ryan says it will slow down economic growth, and it may snuff out the gains Republicans have garnered over tax reform. What's your view of that?
Well, it's important for everybody to remember that a tariff is a tax, and typically Republicans, conservatives have not been for more taxes. So I'm against new tariffs. They're simply a tax on the consumer.
Is the president right or wrong on this, do you think, Senator?
I think it's a wrong thing to do. If you look at steel use in our country, there are 60 people purchasing steel for every person making steel in the country. So there's a lot of people who purchase steel that are going to be hurt by this. My state alone exports $20 billion worth of products, including a lot of farm, agricultural products. And if there's a trade war, we stand to lose in a big way. And really, the United States will lose in a trade war.
Well, last point here. You're going to introduce an amendment to audit the Fed. This has been going on for some time. Why is it significant to keep track of those numbers, do you think, Senator?
Well, the Federal Reserve is incredibly powerful, and what they've done for decade after decade is to keep interest rates really low so government can keep borrowing and borrowing and borrowing money, and that's why we have this enormous $20 trillion debt. But when they keep interest rates low, they prevent a useful signal from being distributed to the economy, and the economy gets into a boom and then ultimately a bust because of the Federal Reserve manipulating interest rates and keeping them below the market rate. So I think the Federal Reserve ought to be audited. I think their power needs to be restrained. constrained, and I think we should try to maintain value in the dollar instead of trying to destroy the dollar.
Well, your father taught you well. like father, like son. Senator Paul, thank you for your time today. We'll speak again from the Hill.
Thanks, Will.